Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
prepare to be astonished.
Hey, welcome to the Young Prophets Podcast. My name's Justin Allen. I'll be your host today. To my left and off screen, we've got the one, the only, the man, the legend, John Rolfe, mixing it up.
What's up, everybody? Good to be with you.
Good to have you with us, man. I'm looking forward to today. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to jump into the conversation and see where this thing goes. Our guest today is a friend of mine, a new friend of mine, and a friend of Global Awakening. He was here before I came in, and he kind of exited when I entered, and is doing some amazing things in the city of New York. He's a photographer. He's a creative, and he loves Jesus. So I want to introduce Corey Hayes is on the broadcast.
Sleep till Brooklyn! No! Sleep
Well
till
played.
Brooklyn!
Even though you don't live in Brooklyn, we
I live in Manhattan.
still liked it, and we're like, it's close enough.
Close enough.
You know, so how you doing, Corey? Welcome to the show, man.
I'm great. How are you guys? It's good to see you again, Justin.
Yeah, it's good to see you as well. I'm excited you came on the broadcast with us today. This is going to be fun and exciting. I'm glad you came on. I've said that 3 times, so I'm very happy about this. I'm looking forward to this, and for those of you who watch and listen, you know that we try to interview people from a variety of walks of life, and they're doing different things, not only ministers and stuff like that, but also people that are mixing it up in the different mountains of influence. Corey is a fantastic photographer and creative, and also loves Jesus. So, Corey, tell us a little bit about yourself. What would you want somebody to know who's being introduced to you? Tell us about yourself, what you're doing, who you are, man.
Yeah. Let's see. I would say that when I first talk about myself, I tell people these days that, I always hate to be defined by what I do.
Yeah.
So often in New York, it's the first question out of people's mouth is, what do you do, so that I can kind of like fit you in that box. So, yeah, I like telling people that I am a creative. My first degree is in graphic design, and then my second degree is in photography.
Okay.
But then through that, like about every 10 years, I tend to take a stick of dynamite to my life and destroy whatever I was doing before and take a completely different tact. And yeah, first I was a graphic designer, then I was a photographer, and now, I'm kind of a graphic designer and a photographer and work with the homeless, kind of all at the same time.
Okay, fantastic. So, I love it. I love it. And two, we don't love to box people in either, but I love that you're, what you tend to gravitate towards and your line of work and stuff like that kind of reflects your heart in a lot of cases. If it doesn't, it should. So if you're doing something you don't love out there, you should start to do something you love. It'll actually free you up. So, man, I love what I get to see. So we don't live in the same area. You live in New York. I've got a bunch of friends up there, and I've got to spend some time with Marion ministering on the road and stuff like that. So I've actually got to spend a little more time getting to know her and her heart and what she's doing with the prison ministry and stuff like that. But I've watched your body of work through your website and through Instagram and stuff like that. And looks like you have relationship with people in places of influence, and you've been able to take some amazing photos and work with some awesome opportunities. Would you speak a little bit about that? How did you get started in the city? Like New York City is not a city for the faint of heart. It's not somewhere you just say, "Oh, I want to go to New York," or "I want to go to LA and I'm gonna be somebody." That story's been told 1,000 times, and it doesn't always work out well. How did you get to New York? How did you get started in doing the photographs with who you're doing them with, and all of that stuff?
Yeah, I'll try to keep that pretty concise. But it's a long story.
Yeah.
So I moved to New York in 2000. I had just finished photography school there. I dropped my first portfolio off at a magazine, and as soon as they accepted it, I saw them put them in a stack with other people's portfolios, and they put it right next to one of my photographic heroes.
Oh man!
And I just had like a mild heart attack thinking, oh my gosh, if they're going to look at my work and his work, no way I'm going to get this job.
Oh, man.
So, so then I just started photo assisting in New York. It's it's the route that most people start. You just start working with lower tier photographers, work your way up to working with like top tier photographers.
Okay.
So at the end of 5 years, I was traveling the world with some of my favorite photographers.
Oh, man.
And so we could fill 10 podcasts with crazy stories.
Crazy stories.
The world with photographers.
Oh, man.
So anyway, after, let's see, about 5 years of photo assisting, I went out on my own for about 7 years.
Okay.
Just started building up my own portfolio, my own work, and really starting to develop my own style of photography and what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then after about 7 years of that, and I was really doing fairly well, and so was Marion in her career on Wall Street. But then we were both at a point where we were like, I'm just tired of New York. And
Yeah.
Marion was like, I don't like my job anymore. And she had always had a dream of going to ministry school. So
Okay.
we blew up our lives in New York and moved to Pennsylvania and went to Global Awakening for 3 years.
Wow. So
And those are like 3 of the most transformative years of my life.
that's amazing. So super successful, doing everything you kind of wanted to do and on the right track. What most people would say, like, this is it. This is the way you're going. And you're just like, hey, this isn't it. Like, I love what I'm doing, but it isn't scratching that itch. And you pack up everything and you come to Pennsylvania, Mechanicsburg. I'm here currently right now. So it's not a place that you go unless God tells you to go there. Generally, it's not a bad place. I love living here, but it's not like on the map as far as what was going on. So can you kind of like, what led to that? What was the pivotal decision? Did you have like a God moment where you just fed up, or were you tired? Were you worn out, or did you just need a change? What did that look like? And then your time at Global and influence and stuff like that. What was that like for you?
Yeah, for me, I don't think I was in no way the same point in my, like Christian life as I am now.
Okay.
So I think one of the things that I really noticed is that I would be on the train and a musician would come on. Mm-hmm. And when I first moved to New York, I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
At this point in my life, people would get on and I was like, shut up. I just want to ride in silence. Can you not invade my space? And when you're in that New York, everybody and everything is invading your space 24/7. So if you cannot deal with that, it's probably time for you to take a break.
Take a breather. Yeah.
Yeah. But we had an apartment here. We felt like we were set. Mm-hmm. And then 2 years later, we were like, no, it's time to go.
Okay.
And it had always been a dream of Marion's. And she felt that dream to go to a Bible school or a ministry school, it kind of passed her by.
Yeah.
And well, like I said, for me, every 10, 12 years, I'm like,
mix it up.
Let's mix it up.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And our plan at first was for Marion just to go to school and for me to keep working remotely doing photography between Pennsylvania and New York.
Yeah. Okay.
But Marion, being the smarter of the two, said, I think we should do it together because one person kind of take off spiritually and the other person kind of get left behind.
Yeah.
That would probably not be the most healthy thing to do in a relationship. So we both went at the same time.
That's fantastic. I love that you chose to go through this thing together. And you mentioned too that, you're in a different place now than you were then. One of the things that I love about the kingdom and about the Christian walk is it's not about where you are or where somebody else is, but it's kind of about where you're walking with the Lord. You don't compare your success or your progress based off of people around you, but you base it off of intimacy and honesty and authenticity. And one of the things that was really unique for me, because I come from pretty conservative background, religiously speaking. So like the denomination that I came from wasn't open to what I do now. And I wasn't okay with the level of freedom that I experienced within Global Awakening. And it wasn't just the area of expression and stuff like that, as far as manifestation and gift and stuff like that. But I realized how much religious thought was in my head, where I felt like I had to manage other people's like holiness and walk with the Lord and stuff like that.
Right.
But I found that time tells all things, and fruit will actually speak for itself. That the Holy Spirit's a big boy, and he can sort those things out. And I'm saying that because I feel like it's really important for different personality types. Like some people are more rigid and line upon line and precept upon precept, and I'm like very organized. And some people just aren't built that way. For you in your process and walk with the Lord, let's talk about something that's kind of out of left field I wasn't going to talk about, but let's talk about sanctification and getting to know the Lord and walking in holiness. How is that process for you? It's a process for all of us. I'm definitely not there. But like, what does it look like, and how was the Lord working on things systematically with you that you felt like you were unique? And there's like, maybe if you could tell somebody about Jesus and the way he was with you, that could set somebody else free. I know that's out of left field. It wasn't in our notes, but I like that one. Let's go with it. Yeah.
That's totally fine. Sanctification is always like a big scary word
It is.
because it sounds like the process is finished.
Yeah.
And I never feel like the process is finished.
Yeah.
At least for me. Like there's in my time do we want to go off on this rabbit trail?
Go for it, man. We chase rabbits around here.
All right. So after we finished our 3 years at Global Awakening, I actually went on staff with Global Awakening for 2 years, and that's where I got to know John.
Okay.
So after that time, Marion got ordained, I got licensed, and Bob Hazlett prophesied over us. That's why we ended up back in New York.
Okay.
Because he had spoken a lot of stuff over us, and we. Bob, if you're watching, like 80% of that stuff has come true.
I love it.
In the time that we've been back, I think we both consider that coming back to New York, we've come back as missionaries, not to just go back to, not to go back to fishing after you met Jesus.
Yeah.
It's like, don't go back and do the thing that, you were doing before. And my first 8 months back in New York, that's what I thought I was going to do, was go back to fishing.
Yeah.
And now that's totally changed. And we'll get into it more later.
Yeah.
But at Global Awakening, praying for people, you always are praying with a sense of immediacy. That you want to see change, and you want to see it now, and you want to see healing right now, and you want that prophetic word right now. But when I came back, I went through a program to become a spiritual director.
Okay.
Through the Vineyard.
Wow.
And through this, it was a 2-year program, and basically you learn how to, my favorite description of it is like, you sit down with somebody else in a conversation, and it's you, that person, the Holy Spirit, and you kind of dust that person's life for the fingerprints of God.
Oh, wow.
You help those people to see where God's at work in their life.
It's good.
But it's an ongoing process. So at Global Awakening, I kind of like learned this immediacy of God, and through spiritual direction, I've learned like the waiting on God.
Oh, that's super good. No, I love that. That's real life too, because not everything is a conference or an event, and they have their place, but finding balance is half the battle in life in general.
Yeah. So, sanctification, when I think of that, I feel like it's, on the one hand, it's kind of like Jesus has paid the price. It's done. And on the second hand, you walk that out on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And that both of those things can be true.
Yeah.
That you can hold them both in tension.
Yeah.
And balance it.
Yeah.
That's where it's at for me.
No.
It's both
at
the same time.
Both and. That's fantastic. No, I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that too, that you highlighted there are a lot of people listening, watching, experiencing this that are actually going through some form of training school or supernatural school or whatever. And in those places, or generally intensives that focus on the flash, the bang, the dynamite, the power, those moments.
Yeah.
And those are real and those are valid. And I think heavy emphasis on those is because a season prior, nobody made emphasis on it, and it needed to be emphasized. But two, there's now almost an entire generation of people that only know this, and they don't know the slow organic growth. And it's good, like you said, truths are held in tension, and there's truth and there's greater truth, and sometimes we only see like an element, like looking through a diamond or a prism when you see the light, and it refracts a different way. But Jesus is truth. The truth is a person. He can be known in a diversity of ways. That's super cool. And I love the relational element of that. So people that come to these schools and then move back into a pastoral capacity or a discipling capacity or a counseling and mentorship, they actually, it's like, oh man, this is so much slower. But sometimes slow growth is the best growth, and you'll know when those moments are. That's super good, man. Thanks for chiming in on that. I love it. So we'll just move on a little bit. Specifically, generally people that, you said Bob Hazlett had called you out and said, hey, like there's something about New York, but for you had already been there as well. Is there something about New York that has a gravitational pull to you, that there is something about that city? Anybody who lives there has gone there. Like you either love it or you hate it, but if you love it, you really love it. If you hate it, you really hate it. But there's no way to be mixed on it. It's polarizing. But most people that are called there, particularly people who have success and influence, there's something on it. What is special to you about New York? Why there? Why now? And what do you think you're positioned there for?
Why there? Why now? That's really like, when Marion and I were at Global Awakening, our fingers were crossed that we were going to be missionaries in Thailand.
Oh, okay.
But we went to Thailand, no doors opened, and we were like, okay, that's not it. So when Bob prophesied over us, we were bawling our eyes out, and we looked over at Randy, and Randy was freaking out because he knew of our connection to New York, and anybody that knew us was like, this is obviously from God. Yeah. So in all honesty, we were done with New York. We didn't think we were coming back until Bob spoke that word. Yeah. And then afterward, we had this conversation with Steve Swanson. We got to take him back to the airport because he had been leading worship. Yeah. And I said, Steve, what do you do with a prophetic word like that? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, number one, does it register with you? And we were like, yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, you now have a choice to make. Okay. Because God doesn't just put blinders on you and say, this is the only way you're going. Correct. You have to say, okay, if this is a word from God, I need to live into this. Mm-hmm. So we came back to New York. It was, it was a miracle. We said, God, we have lived in New York before, and it's exhausting. Yeah. So if we're going back, you're going to have to make the way. Okay. Yeah. So within a month, Marion's old job called her back, which does not happen on Wall Street. No, it was a fantastic job, too. Yeah, and within a month, we were back in New York. God. Not only that, but we were positioned in a place that, it was convenient enough locationally to where it didn't eat up all of our time. Yeah. Just trying to get to work, so that we had no time for ministry. Wow. Yeah. So God really just set it up. But to really speak to the heart of your question, we didn't really care where it was going to be. Yeah, New York happened to be the place where He called God you. Was this is where I need you. Yeah, that's good. We just want to be faithful and say, all right, then this is where we're going to go. No, that's awesome. I love it. That's great. It's important too. Like people listening, sometimes you think you're going to fall in love with the place that you're called to, or you think that it's going to give you warm fuzzies. Sometimes the thing God asks you to do sometimes will terrify you. It will make you frustrated. You won't love the people you're called to sometimes. I always,
I think of Jonah. Jonah.
Yeah.
We all want to be prophets. We all want to have the word of the Lord. But when the word of the Lord came to Jonah, he came and said, "Hey, I want you to tell some stuff to some people you don't like." And Jonah's response wasn't the best, but it worked out well. So God always works everything out for good. And eventually you start to wait. Do you hear that? I hear something right now. John, what does this mean, man?
All right, this is the time in the podcast where we like to put our guests on the spot and see them in a little bit of a different light than what we normally get to see them. And so today we're going to play a little game called How Much of a Real New Yorker is Corey Hayes?
Oh gosh.
So we're going to do a little New York City trivia with you and see how much about the city you know. And you know more about it than we do, guaranteed. So you're probably going to teach us some things. All right, first question. Here we go. First question. What are the 5 boroughs that make up New York City? Can you name the 5? Yep.
From top to bottom, we've got the Bronx,
Yep.
Queens, Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Staten Island.
He got it.
Woo, well
Boom.
done.
In
well
order.
Done. In order, from top
order.
to bottom. He just schooled us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nicely done. Okay. Next question. We got a little siren.
Siren.
That's good New York background
I
music, right?
I heard a few sirens.
Okay, next question. The largest art museum in the Western Hemisphere is located in New York City. What museum is that?
The largest. Wow.
Largest in the Western Hemisphere.
I'm going to go with the Met.
It's the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
All right.
Nice.
Okay, next question. The Empire State Building is one of New York's best-loved landmarks. Built in 1930 and completed in just over a year, it cost $24 million to build. How many floors does it have?
Ooh. Oh, man.
How many floors? Empire State Building.
Okay, so as with any New Yorker, there are certain things that, like, as a New Yorker, you just don't do until your parents come in town. The Empire State Building is one of them.
I have no
And
idea.
I have never been up there.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to take a guess and say 137.
102.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean,
Closer than I would.
Yeah.
That was a good answer.
Yeah.
I would have gone there. Just 30 floors, give or take.
right? Okay. All right. Next question. New York's most famous landmark is almost certainly the Statue of Liberty. Most of us know that it was a gift from France in 1886 and that it stands in the harbor as a symbol of freedom that tempted many immigrants to the USA over the years. But what is the statue's full name?
Ooh. That's crazy.
Oh, man.
It's got an actual name.
I know this, but I cannot
I was
remember
just
it.
there 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't tell you this.
Yeah?
I had screaming children, though.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. All right. The actual name is Liberty Enlightening the World.
Liberty enlightening the world.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Now you know.
Okay. Bonus question on the Statue of Liberty. What do the 7 points on the Statue of Liberty's crown represent?
Oh, wow.
Oh, jeez. No idea.
Represents the light shining on the 7 seas and the 7 continents.
Wow. So much symbolism.
Wow.
Who
It
knew?
is. It's prophetic.
That's cool.
It's prophetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
all
so
right.
Any real? I'm actually gaining New Yorker
There you
points by not knowing this.
Unless you worked on the boat, on the tour boat.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Our next question here. Let's see. Let me find a good one. What is the only borough that isn't an island?
The only borough that isn't an island is the Bronx.
Correct. Got it. All right. You're what, 3 for 4 now? You got a good batting
He's
average
doing
going
well.
here. Yep.
doing
Okay.
Okay. Let me find a good one here. Let's see. Which famous New York City concert venue occupies 7th Avenue between 56th and 57th Streets?
Between 56 and I think that's Carnegie Hall.
Correct.
Wow. Well done.
Nailing it.
Well done.
Okay, this is probably an easy one, but a New York City tourist destination called Tavern on the Green is located in which area of New York City?
Central Park.
Yep.
Correct.
Been there.
Killing it. All right, here's another Central Park question for you. One of the main jewels of Central Park is the Bethesda Fountain. And the centerpiece of the fountain is a sculpture by Emma Stebbins. What is the name of this beautiful sculpture?
Oh, geez. No clue. and I walk by that fountain like every day when we lived on the Upper West Side. Idea.
It's called the Angel of the Waters.
The Angel of the Waters.
Angel of the Waters.
There you go.
More spiritual symbolism.
Oh, man.
This is a prophetic podcast. Okay, let's do one more New York question. Let me find a good one. How many commuter bridges cross the East River?
Cross the East River. 1, 2. I'm gonna go with 3, but there could be another one up further in Queens.
There's actually.
I think it's 3, but I'm gonna go with 4 for the one that I don't know.
Okay, it's actually 7.
My God, that's a lot of bridges.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's the Triborough, the Queensboro, the Manhattan, the Williamsburg, Throgs Neck, Whitestone, and the Brooklyn Bridge.
Throgs Neck.
Throgs Neck.
That's a weird name.
That is weird. Never heard of it.
Throgs Neck.
Throgs Neck.
So just so you know, I don't own a car.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right. Okay, that's enough New York trivia. Let's. Let me ask you a personal question. Let's get personal.
Let's get personal. Confessions.
We had some other people on the podcast from New York. We actually haven't aired that episode yet.
Yeah.
The Trainers coming up soon, and they had told Justin some crazy stories about things that they had witnessed in New York City, and we didn't get into it on the podcast. So what?
How real do you want this to get?
Let's get real. We can bleep things, we can edit if we need to.
Semi-appropriate, but real.
So, living in New York City, what is the strangest thing that you've ever seen anybody do? The weirdest thing that you've ever seen in New York?
He's like, I got to filter the top 5 out.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So they all come to mind. I'm just trying to think which one is the least offensive.
We put him on the spot.
Oh boy,
This is tough.
We have a much younger listening audience than the normal global crowd, so you have a little liberty here.
And once I tell you this, people are going to be like, I don't want to go to New York. So there's this cartoonist that does these series of cartoons about New York.
Yep.
And one of the cartoons that he did that I just love is when you see an empty subway car in New York, it's empty for a reason. So one evening, Marion and I, this is back when we were living in Brooklyn. We were coming into the city with some friends of ours. Pulled up, the doors open, the car is empty.
Oh, no.
But we looked in there, and there's a guy holding on to the subway post.
Oh, no.
In a squatting
Oh,
position.
no.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And he's basically like doing number 2.
That's like what you do in the woods, except you hang onto a tree. He's doing it on the subway.
That's oh, God.
And I wish there had been a video camera because we all
Oh, my
stunned look
gosh.
on our faces. The subway doors
Oh, my
closed,
gosh. Like, yep.
and the train pulled out. And
Oh, man.
We're not catching that one.
And somewhere there's a guy in New York who's taking fake dumps on trains so he can have them to himself.
Yes. Good tactic. Okay, let's do a couple more questions here. We know that you've worked with some. Pull it together, Justin. Pull it together. Okay, we know that you've worked with some famous people. If you go to your website, CoreyHayesPhoto.com, you can see some of those photos. Just name like a couple of your favorite celebrities that you've been able to photograph. I know you've got pictures of Jim Gaffigan, of Tony Hale from Arrested Development, a lot of people like that. Name one of your favorite people that you've done a video shoot with, and why was it your favorite?
I would say celebrity-wise, I think. So he's an actor and he's a playwright and he voices the dinosaur on Toy Story. His name's Wallace Shawn.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
If you've ever seen The Princess Bride, the guy that goes, Inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Exactly. That's Wallace Shawn.
Yep.
And, he's my favorite because he was the first celebrity that I ever photographed.
Oh,
I photographed him for the Austin Chronicle. And when I had first gotten the call, he like called me himself, and he was like, "Hey, this is Wally Shawn. We're setting up a photo shoot for the Austin Chronicle. Just wanted to call, set up the details."
Yeah.
So I told this to one of my friends, and I said, "Hey, I'm photographing this playwright Wallace Shawn," and I had no idea who he was. And my friend Russell was like, "What? That guy's amazing!"
Yeah.
And so then I Googled him, and I was like, "Oh, that guy!"
Yeah, if you look him up on IMDb, it like his filmography and voiceover work, it's insane.
Wow.
Like it's like pages worth of stuff that he's done. It's crazy.
Yeah. So then when I showed up, he just walked in the door himself, like no entourage, nothing like that.
That's
and
cool.
he was just the smartest, kindest, like funniest guy I could ever ask for.
Wow.
So as like my introduction to working with celebrities, it was perfect
Yeah,
because
good way to
I was
start.
out of my depth. I didn't know what I was dealing with, and he was just gracious.
That's
and
awesome.
lovely.
That's awesome.
Super rad.
Speaking of other celebrities, I've always thought that you look like Michael Stipe from REM. Are you related?
Oh man, I love it. That's the greatest compliment ever.
There we go.
And then, all right, last question. We were looking through Instagram, and
Oh, God.
if you search Corey Hayes on Instagram, you are not the first Corey Hayes that comes up. Are you aware of this other Corey Hayes? You're not?
He knows.
Oh, you do know?
No, but I think is he a bodybuilder?
Something like that. I think he's an underwear model.
Potentially.
Yeah. He's got some spicy stuff.
But it's not you.
It's
So-
definitely not the right Corey Hayes. So
we'll put your actual Instagram
Yes.
handle in the comments, so if people
Yes.
go searching, they don't find the wrong Corey Hayes or a different one.
Or if you just want to look at an underwear model.
you never know what you're going to get
You
on this
never know.
podcast.
No, not at all.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions that I have for you today. Thanks for playing along. You're a good sport.
Yeah.
Great stories. All right. Back to you, Justin.
Yeah. Awesome. Well done, man. You did well under pressure. You answered the questions well, even the tricky
Thanks.
ones. That was fun. We like to just lighten it up, middle of the broadcast here. And we'll segue out of this. And kind of in the same theme, though, I did want to talk about some of the stuff. You have photographed some really well-known people in every sphere of influence. How did that start? Did it start just by some of the people you were working with originally, and then your name got out there? And in the midst of actors, musicians, you've people that are TV personalities and stuff like that. Have you had any God moments in there or anything like that? I kind of want to hear a couple of stories from that.
Yeah. So really it all, like my first kind of big break came by photographing Wallace Shawn.
Okay.
Also one of the reasons that he was my favorite, because once you photograph one celebrity, it opens the door for everybody else.
Okay.
They're like, okay, now that we see that, you've already photographed somebody famous, other famous people feel comfortable working with you.
Yeah.
Like had that shot not happened, I probably wouldn't have, my portrait photography probably wouldn't have headed in that direction. So yeah.
So one opened the door for many.
Exactly. And it's funny that, it doesn't mean that I was any better photographer than I was before I photographed Wallace Shawn. It just so happened that now that I had photographed him, other people felt more comfortable working with me in that capacity.
Yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. You said you met him initially with the Austin Chronicle or something like that? Was that
I shot the job for the Austin Chronicle.
okay? So it was before New York, actually, is when you got your foot in the door with that. That's crazy.
No,
And then
actually, it was through connections back in Austin.
that's wild. Because sometimes people make assumptions that who you're connected to is because of the season you're currently in. This is in ministry too. But really, a lot of my strongest relationships have come from maybe other seasons of life where I didn't feel like what I was doing was, really sowing into my future, but it actually turns out to be the opposite is true. That's super cool. I like this. Go ahead.
When it comes to God moments, you have to be very when you're photographing celebrities, you have to really walk a fine line there. So,
Correct.
I always research people before I actually photograph them. Number one, just to have topics to talk about.
Yeah.
And number two, just so that I know their body of work, because, I never want to walk into something and tell somebody that I had seen them in a movie that they weren't in or something like that. That's
would go bad.
Yeah. So the one celebrity that I photographed that, when I did some research, I found that they were already had a faith. Jim Gaffigan and his wife are pretty strong Catholics. So we were able to talk a little bit about, our faith and Christ and during that time.
Yeah.
But it's really more in the work that I'm doing now.
Okay.
Once Marion and I came back from Global Awakening, I went back to fishing for 8 months, just doing portrait photography, because I didn't know what living out that prophetic word was going to be. And then my pastor at the time, Christine Lee, sent me a job search from an organization here in New York called New York City Relief.
Okay.
And they are a mobile outreach to the homeless.
Oh, okay.
So they were looking for somebody that did graphic design, photography, video, and had ministry experience.
Okay.
And I was like, that's basically my.
I feel like this might be God.
So yeah, after coming back from Global Awakening, I just basically went back to fishing, which for me was portrait photography. Then my pastor at the time, Christine Lee, had sent me a job posting from an organization called New York City Relief, mobile outreach to people that are dealing with homelessness in New York. So the job listing asked for somebody that had graphic design experience, photography experience, video experience, and ministry experience. That's
normal.
So it was basically just exactly. Yeah. That's what you look for in every photographer, ministry experience.
Obviously.
So yeah, it was basically just, all of my entire resume, and not just looking for the creative part, but also the ministry part. So I've been working with them for about the past 2.5 years, and that is just God moment after God moment.
Okay.
Like, basically when I was at Global Awakening, my first year, I felt really strongly that I think one of the strongest words that I've ever gotten from God, I was like, God, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a a speaker. Like, I see everybody with all these gifts. Mine are like the visual arts. What can you do with it? And I felt God tell me I just want you to tell my story. So that's what I do now at New York City Relief, is basically trying to tell God's story.
Okay.
And oh my gosh, again, we could fill another podcast with miraculous stories of things that I've seen out on the streets of New York.
Come on.
But I just want to share like one quick story about like how photography plays into this. I was shooting a testimony of this woman that was living in a shelter. Like, after she told me her story, Justin, it kind of like gave me I was basically shaken up for 3 days because I didn't know how anyone could endure that kind of evil, or that kind of evil even existed in the world. Like, it was satanic cult kind of stuff. So after she told me, after I had got finished filming her story, I said, "Hey, can I shoot a portrait of you?" So it was the simplest thing. Like, for me, it was the simplest. Just what I do is take people's photos. So shot the photo. I ended up sending it to her, and she's doing like just phenomenal now. But me and some coworkers went and saw her give a concert here in New York. And during that, she talked about that experience for her. She said, when I saw that photo, she said, I saw someone that was doing okay. I didn't see the broken person that I felt that I was inside. And she said, and that was a turning point for her. To see herself in a way that somebody else saw her.
And so when I was at Global Wedding, people prophesied over me all the time. I see prophetic photography, and I was like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Come on.
Getting to work with people who, have just had rough lives.
Yeah.
That they need God to be able to photograph them and help them see themselves a little bit of the way that God sees them.
Come on.
Like, that's the greatest thing in the world for me right now.
No, that's amazing, and I love the emphasis that you're putting there. Sometimes we mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, but you don't compare your progress by someone else's progress, because you'll always pale in comparison to what you see in others. Because we tend to see, the worst in ourselves and the best in other people. But basically what you articulated there is exactly what ministry is. I do a lot of platform ministry and revival meetings and stuff, but our goal is, as a prophetic minister, my goal is to let people see themselves as God sees them. Let them see them through their destiny. I do it with words and, word pictures. You're able to actually take the eyes and the perception that you have and be able to frame a portrait of somebody who God, in the way that God sees them. I think that is ridiculously powerful, over the top, man. I love that too. What was the name of that project? Because didn't you do a series where you took multiple photos of people like that?
Yeah, so if you go to NYC_relief, you can see a lot of the work that I do with New York City Relief.
And this is just another testament of using how you were created to be, how God's made you. Don't try to be anybody else. They're all taken. Right. Be yourself, but be yourself to the best of your ability. Corey, I appreciate you being on here and fighting through some of our technical issues. The content is out of this world. This has been so great. And the nature of what this podcast is a prophetic podcast, and we believe that as sons and daughters of God, we have the capacity to see what God is doing, to hear what He's saying, and relay that to the world around them. Do you have any encouragement, anything that you want to leave with viewers who may be feeling kind of inclined to follow the route that you've gone, or a route similar to that, and maybe their passion is the creative arts? Do you have, if you could speak to yourself 10 years ago, what would you say now that you didn't know then?
Yeah, for me, a creative voice comes from your experience. I found that after I photo assisted for other photographers, when you looked at my portfolio, it looked like 50 different photographers, because I had taken all of my inspiration from them. It wasn't until I found what it was that I loved about photography, what it was that I loved about people, that my work started looking like Corey Hayes.
Okay.
Because you can shoot photography all day long, but unless you have something to say about your subjects, it's never going to start to be more than just just a picture. And do I get it right all the time? Absolutely not. But do I strive for these moments where I'm connecting with somebody, and hopefully they're seeing a little glimpse of something about themselves that maybe they've never seen before? That's my goal.
That's awesome, man. No, I love it. Super cool. I want to say thank you so much again for being on here. I've had a blast. I'd love to do this again sometime, actually expound like a part 2 sometime in the future, or maybe if you're in the Mechanicsburg area, we could actually have you in the studio, which I think would be fun and interesting as well. But you guys can check out Corey on Instagram. We'll have CoreyHayesPhotos.com or whatever it is in the comments here. Thank you so much for being with us, man. It's been a blast. And guys,
so good to see both of you guys.
Come on, man. And we'll be having some more stuff put out there in the future, so pay attention for what we have in the future. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and review the podcast on whatever format you're viewing or listening on. Thank you. See you next time.